Hey guys, it's Justin again with another tutorial for Tutorial Tuesday. This time I'm going to show you a couple different ways that you can detail and paint your frames, whether it be fully painting the entire frame or masking and painting or doing a little hand painting, a combination of any of those things. All these can be kind of used and layered in different orders and used different ways, and produce many different results depending on the methods that you decide to use. So this might seem a little weird. I have actually shot this as a different tutorial, so it might be cut up strangely, but the point's still there. The biggest thing with painting frames is a lot of people just assume you just layer chrome and then you put a clear color over it and then you put another chrome or a different metallic, and sometimes that works, but it's not always the case. More recently, I've been experimenting with using flat colors instead of metallics on my frames, and here's a good example of that. Is in this little crevice here, I've gone ahead and I've painted a gray. Now this specific gray is, where's it at? I just had it, now it's gone. It's a Model Masters color. There it is. It's Model Masters Acrylic Gunship Gray. It's a really nice kind of medium kind of gray, and I use that on this little inner piece as well as these little plug-in parts on the sides of the arms. I use them on the legs, I use them on the chest, I use them on the crotch, I use them in a lot of places. And then I did a lot of hand painting using other metallics to make the other metallics pop a little better and draw attention to certain pieces. You can see I used some of the Ghost Gray, or the Gunship Gray on the back of that. And then there's this guy. I painted some gray detail just so that it doesn't stand out as much. And you can do this anywhere you want. So this is just one of the ways, and I'll actually show you on a part here in a second. I've done most of these already, but I think the biggest misconception is people just assume you have to use a bunch of metallic colors, and sometimes flat colors will help your metallics pop a little better. So if you got detail like this, just go ahead and hand brush in some dark grays or some tans, or even your main armor color. So if it's like the back side of a front skirt and the armor is white, you can paint white in there, and then it'll contrast with the metallics nice and well, and you'll be able to see it. Now typically when I do any kind of hand brushing, I'll either stick to acrylics or enamels depending on what I'm doing. Acrylics for flat colors and things like that are great. They work really well. You can thin them down usually without much effort. They're easy to work with, and they work. It's the easiest way to put it. But when I'm working with metallics, I like to use enamels, just because they're more durable for starters, and they're easier to work with. You don't have to worry about them drying on the brush or smudging them around or anything like that and getting caked up. They typically work with you and things like that. So for the first part of this, we'll go ahead and I'll show you this little piece here. This is the back of the leg. I'm going to paint this little raised detail, and I'm going to be using Humbrol's. It's like a black metallic color. It doesn't have an actual thing. I guess it's just metallic 201. So let me get my stuff set up and I will come right back. Alright, so for this segment of the tutorial, I'm going to be hand brushing Humbrol enamels. These are obviously enamel paints. They're really easy to work with, and just because of the section that I'm painting, I'm not really going to thin this down. There's no real reason to. I'm just going to go ahead and layer it very thinly onto this piece. And then if there's a bunch on the brush, I can just put it in the middle. But just going to layer it on until I get the desired effect. I don't know if it's because the Humbrol paints are thinner or what, but these are a little thin, so you might have to apply a couple of layers. But typically, you will get something like this. And that's just brushing it straight on. It doesn't look too bad. It needs some touching up over here on this side. You can always put more paint on the brush if you need to. But that's pretty much, it's really as easy as that. You just brush it and then clean it up. I would recommend painting your base coat on first and then going from there. But some people like to paint the undercolor after primer first and then throw down or mask it off and then paint around it. And then if you mess this up and you hit little areas, for this particular color I just kind of brush over the edges with chrome silver if I mess up. It doesn't completely color match, but it covers up the mistakes well enough. That's it. So I will put the rest of the masking type stuff after this, and hopefully you guys enjoyed. So I'll see you guys later. Alright, so when you're painting any kind of frame, the two types of masking that you'll generally go over really depends on what you're masking, how you're masking, and how you're painting. Now, where I've laid down a metallic color first, I'm going to mask just this off. In order to do that, I'm not going to use masking tape. I could very easily use masking tape and I could actually get a really good result out of it, but where it's a rounded shape, it's a little harder to work with. It's not ideal. Now if I wanted to go ahead and do this the other way, I could paint the entire piece the color that I wanted this, majority of this piece to be. Then I could lay tape along this edge and then paint the silver piece. But I feel like that's a waste. So what we're going to do is take some blue tack, or some poster tack, whatever you want to call it. Or if you could even use liquid mask if you feel comfortable enough to do that. I'm going to take a toothpick, just one toothpick, a little bit, very tiny little bit of poster tack. This might actually be too much. And I'm going to roll it into a ball. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm just going to stick it in the middle of the piece. And then I'm going to use this toothpick and I'm going to push it down towards the edge that I want to be masked. And I'm trying to keep it as thin as possible. What this does is it'll create a hard line for this masking essentially. And it'll give a good protective base over top of that color, so that when I start painting I don't have to worry about going over, I don't have to worry about overspray. I can just spray the piece and it's done. And you want to go over this lip and make sure that you get this whole piece right here. This is where I can use the rest of this. Just kind of throw that in there like that. Make sure that it covers. Make sure that it wraps all the way around. And there you go. Now it might not look like a whole lot right now, but if you do it just right, it doesn't really matter about little bumps. Just as long as you get up against the main shape. You can roll the toothpick along it, you can smooth it out, you can play with it until you get it how you want it. You can just tweezers. And that will cover the shape that you want to be that one color. So I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of these, and then I'll come back and we can spray these the rest of the colors that they want to be, or that we want them to be, and we'll go from there. Alright, so once we get our color laid down, our mask put down, we can go ahead and start painting again. We've already laid down a base coat of aluminum, and a couple of parts received a coat of dark aluminum. So what we're going to do now is spray dark aluminum over the pieces that excuse me, will have that already have aluminum on them. We're going to spray these with dark aluminum, and all this is going to do is create a more subtle effect. Again, the only real difference between the aluminum and the dark aluminum is just how bright it is. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and put some magnesium in here. We'll spray that, and we will come back and look at all the parts on the bench. Here I am thinking I've showed you all the stuff that I can show you as far as painting is concerned, and I forget one of the most important things about this tutorial. I'm painting a real grade. So this is the frame for the real grade. It's all pre-assembled for you. Essentially, you just kind of put pieces over this, but where this is pre-assembled, you're gonna have to move it. So I'm going to show you how to paint that and move it. It's really basic. It's really easy, but some people like to know. So we're going to go ahead and layer this magnesium color over the entire frame. Very much like a steel color, so that works out really well. Alright, so I'm going to finish doing this one because I just ran out of paint in the cup, and we will come back and we will show you how to move it and get to the next part. Alright, now the beauty of this color is it dries sort of semi-gloss. This is after about 5 or 6 minutes. It's not very super reflective. I'm not sure. Let me see if this is a polishable one. Nope. Doesn't say. So some alclads are polishable, some are not. So this is what we painted before. You can see the frame, how it looks. This is what we want it to look like. You can see all the spots where paint did not touch the plastic, mostly like in these little joints and crevices here. Little spots on these pieces, on the toe, and a little bit on the hip. So the first thing I'm going to suggest is fixing the smaller pieces on the end and then working your way up. So you're going to want to fix this, you're going to pop this back up, and you're going to pop the toe down. Then you're going to go ahead and bend this full 180, and then you're going to go ahead and shift the hip down. Easy as that. And then you can go ahead and paint these. So you don't really need to hit it with a full coat. That's up to you. That's a matter of preference. I'm just going to kind of go along this edge here, make sure I get everything that black. And keep everything nice and uniform. So that one looks good. Same with this one. And there we go. So I'm going to go and touch up the rest of these pieces and just make sure everything looks how it's supposed to. We will unmask all this over at the table and we will put it together so you can see. Okay, so now we can go ahead and pop all these pieces of blue tack off and see how we did. We can already see that we're moving the pieces around and there's not really any scratching or anything going on. All the pieces look fine. So the mission was a success. So here we go. There's one. And there so you can see it. If it focuses. Come on. There we go. Kind of subtle, but I like it. Looks good. And the cool thing about blue tack is it's completely reusable. So you don't have to throw this away or anything. You can just keep using it. And if you get blue tack stuck in the corners or anything like that, you can just kind of dab it on the edge or roll it and it'll usually come off. Now this one is a little more subtle. But you can see the minus mold detail is actually a little shinier. I'm sure that'll pop more with a flat coat. And the last order of business is going to be putting this guy together. We got one piece, or two pieces I should say, that are drying. And one piece is actually missing. So I need to find that before I can actually finish. And then there's another two pieces that I haven't painted. Those are these guys. These little thrusters for the bottoms of the feet. And that's just because I'm not sure what color I want to paint them yet. So we'll leave those alone for now. You can put those on at the end. So we can pop these on. This is really, why is this so flat on these pieces? But maybe these are polishable. I'm gonna try. I mean, it looks fine. It's just but you can stick these on here, line them up properly, and you can see they look how they're supposed to. Nice and got a nice strong contrast. That's what I was going for with the kneecaps. I wanted there to be a difference between the knee and the caps on the end. So I have achieved that. So, I can start to put this together. This goes in here. Maybe. Something like that. It's been a while. There we go. And then these knee pieces go around, obviously, the knees. Oh! So there we go. These are what's left. Let's see if these are done yet. Probably not, because clears take forever to dry. Yes, they are done. I just gotta cut them off these. I went ahead and masked the piping off of the piston. So that the piston itself would be red and the bottom part would be a silver. That's why I painted those in aluminum. You can mask those off and paint them any color you want. They don't have to be red, they don't have to be any color you don't want them to be. You can paint them pink if you want. And there we go. So we take these and we put, I gotta remember how to do this. Take this piece, goes up here, and you put the top piece of the piston here. Close it up. And the bottom half plugs into this thing. So, peg that into the foot, and you flip it up and it locks it into place. So there's our completed real grade frame for the leg. 3 metallic tones plus a candy red for the pistons. Everything works, all the pistons move and stuff like that. Now all it needs pretty much is a wash to pop some of those details out, but it looks fine the way it is. I like it. Another thing you can do is you can go in here with like enamels, and you can touch just these little circular details here. If it focuses, like the rivets, and you can make those like a gold or a silver or something like that, and make those pop out a little better. But that's entirely optional. But that is the way that I paint real grade frames. As for like the bottoms of the feet, I will paint the entire foot piece the color that I want it. It's on the bottom here. I will paint the entire piece the color that I want it. So this is red, but you know, majority this is going to be a different color. And then I'll mask on this edge, I'll mask on this edge, I'll mask on this edge, and I'll put tiny little strips of masking tape in between all these pieces. And I will mask all these little raised details out and spray them. I could probably just get away with hand painting them, but I like to mask and spray. It takes a long time, but it's well worth the effort. So that is it for this. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I will see you at the next video. Later.